Okay, so we are recording. So a good hello, everyone, and welcome to the WOW Hour with Chris Baigent-Reed from Jigsaw Tree. And Chris, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I hope that we will be able to give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of an insight into you, Jigsaw Tree, what you do, how you do it, and more importantly, why you continue to serve the population of financial services. So kick us off. Give me a little bit of a rundown on who you are. Tell me a bit about Jigsaw Tree and how did you get into it?
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Michelle. First and foremost, it's always fun getting to spend some time with you. It's always a joy. So why financial services? I sort of fell into financial services in 1995 of all times. So and I started working within an advice practice and then sort of switched over into technology, feeling that actually that was probably more where the enjoyment and the focus came from. And there were some changes when I worked at first, and I just thought, you know what, there's a real opportunity in the market to help firms embed technology better. And that was really a core focus to the business. And now we do lots of extra services like outsourced income reconciliation, process mapping, technology selection, adoption, training, project management, all the sort of stuff that's focused around technology. And it's a really interesting space to be, and something I'm still incredibly passionate about today.
Yeah, I bet. So tell me, so obviously, you've obviously got an interest in the tech. So when I think about what Jigsaw Tree does, and we'll come on to the name Jigsaw Tree in a minute, because I actually don't know the history behind it or why it's even called Jigsaw Tree, even though I've known you for what seems like forever. But when you're talking about technology, I always think about, when I talk to firms particularly, I'll be like, anything that sits around the tech, Jigsaw Tree is almost like the bolster of it. Would that be right? Would that be kind of fair?
Yeah, I think we sort of, what I describe to firms is often we provide the cotton wool. So often when firms change technology, there's some rough edges that they can bash against, and we try and, just smooth those rough edges to make it just an easier transition for them. Not saying that, they aren't painful, because of course they are. But we just try and make it easier. And we have some really good best practices that we help firms adopt. And templates, and we know how to set systems up just to keep them simple. So often we see firms that take a new piece of tech and they either try to deconstruct it back to the way their old system worked, or they have too many activities and things going on, and then they say it's too complicated, but they've created it that way. And so we just help them set it up in the right way for the business.
And we'll come back to the complex piece, because just before we hit record, we were just talking about kind of what's going on in financial services. So I'm going to pick that back up with you. So tell me about Jigsaw Tree. Why the name? How did that come about? Because it seems I've never really asked or knew the story behind it.
Yeah, so Jigsaw Tree is the story of my life, actually, Michelle. So I always love backstories on things. So I'm a judge for women in financial services, and I adore the stories and the reasons. And so I was adopted when I was born, and I searched for my biological parents and found my biological mum. Never found my biological dad. He unfortunately died at age 49. And I feel that I have a piece that's just missing. So that's the jigsaw tree, and then that's the jigsaw, and then the tree. I drive down the M5 heading towards home, and there's a single tree that sits on a hill, a very famous tree in Worcester, and that signifies home. And I just actually bring those two pieces together, and that's a name that resonates to me. And then I thought, well, how does that apply to business? And I just thought, well, we all often have lots of pieces and a picture in mind, and we just help build those pieces. And the tree is about sustainable growth. So how can we help firms so they can move forward and future-proof them in their business? So it just seemed to fit quite well.
I love it. I didn't know the story about you being adopted, and you know what that tells me, right? So we were just talking before, just for the benefit of everybody now watching and listening, is, Chris and I collectively have, Chris is nearly 30 years in financial services. I'm nearly 26 years, and I think we are potentially often, I suppose, underestimated in terms of our businesses, why they were set up, why we keep getting out of bed every morning. And what's amazing about that story is that, Chris has just talked about her, her personal backstory, but our businesses aren't just businesses that just rock up one night and go, do you know what, we're going to set this up with no thought. There's so much emotional, like, vested, isn't there? Like, it's part of who we are. I quote the saying on Maverick, the most recent Top Gun, Tom Cruise movie. And he goes in and he talks about, they ask him to be a trainer and not a pilot. And he says, this is not what I do. Flying is who I am. And it's almost like this calling. So, I think, people that are watching, I hope that they get that from your passion, that this is actually something, that this is who you are, and that's fair. That's a fair statement, isn't it, Chris?
Definitely. And I think there are some brilliant things about our sector that, I think financial advice is so important.
Yeah.
I think we have some challenges. We all know about the advice gap sitting at about 92-93%. And, how do we do that? How do we bring financial education into schools in a better, more practical way? That there's lots of things that this sector can really help drive change across the country.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about supporting that.
So on that kind of that sort of thread there. So, what is it? Because, we're both getting older. Like, sometimes I look in the mirror and think, I can't believe 26 years has just literally gone by so quickly, right? Yeah. It's heartbreaking at times, but, like, we've kept going. So what gets you out of bed? What bounces Chris into action in the morning to, be like, come on, let's do this today. What's that thing that does that?
I think for me, it's about making a difference, knowing that you can go into a practice and you can leave them in a better place than you found them in, with, just technology that works better, that's better integrated, that they understand about their data and, how that data can flow. And I think it's, having the ability to pick and choose the clients that we work with, and we work with some marvelous clients, and just supporting the sector. We do some, we did an AI focused forum. We do unofficial user groups to bring groups of people together. And I think that connectivity should never be underestimated. And that's something that absolutely drives me.
I think I was just saying, it was just recently half term, and I went and had a week in Centre Parks. Never been in Centre Parks before. Ruby was off doing her thing. She absolutely loved it. And I was like, found myself in the lodge eating cake and biscuits and sausage sandwiches for most of the week, while Ruby was having an absolute blast on laser tag, and various other things. And I think, I sat there, doing a lot of soul searching about, my 26 years of financial services. And I think what links similar to you, like, what gets me out of bed is the impact that I know a firm can have if we've made them better. Like, it just makes their client journeys better, their client experiences better, everything is better because they've done some stuff with us. And it's the same thing, right? It's that making the difference. It's like a calling, like, I'm not sure anybody else would have us, Chris, actually, but we're here to stay, hopefully.
I do say I'm unemployable, which is probably true. And we saw a firm just yesterday who had implemented Standards International. And, what a difference having that expertise and that framework and that support to them, makes. And they couldn't speak highly enough of, the work that you do and the accreditation that they had as a result of it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But we have got some fab clients, and I know we've got a lot of shared clients, which is why we're doing this. I think it's interesting. Like, so let me ask you a slightly different, off agenda question. So on that, you and I do share a number of clients that have got that mindset, right? And that outlook on their business and on life and what they're good at and what they're not good at. If you could almost describe because I think we share the same type of client. If you could describe your almost your perfect client, the one that you love to work with and that loves you back, like, tell me about who they are.
So I think, for me, it's clients that want to be the best that they can be, that want to drive technology. Is it almost, some firms use the word tech enabled, drive the technology into the heart of their business, but equally that are really client centric. So they think about that client journey and why they're doing it, and equally clients that are open to having a really honest dialogue. Because my view is, if I can't go into a firm and be 100% honest with them and then with me, you don't reach that outcome that you need to reach. And unfortunately, the clients we tend to work with do have that honest contact with us, because it's the best approach that you can get.
Yeah, and also, as a build on from that, I think, the irony of the sector, which I'm experiencing at the moment, is there is a lot of financial planning business owners, owner operators who think they know it all, right? And, they've got some apps on their phone and they're quite good at tech and social media, and they think they have all the answers to running an amazing business. They don't, of course, but they think they do. And I think one of the things I love about our types of clients is, and to be fair, advisors love also this type of client. So the irony is that when they're not, it is always a bit of an interesting one for me. But they know what they're good at and they know what they're not good at. So your best clients and my best clients are those that want to seek support from experts in their field, right? They're not trying to cobble it together and do it themselves, because the do it yourself is just, it's way over. Like, we're way past that. Do you find you come up against firms that are still trying to do it themselves and make a right pig's ear of it?
Yeah.
And then you're undoing stuff with them. We find that all the time.
Often.
Like, they've made a right mess of stuff and then they ship us in. Do you get the same too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're right. Some people think they can do it themselves, and some firms can do it themselves. But I think often you get a better outcome quicker if you bring people in who have been there, done it multiple times before, like we have.
And which is exactly what they would say to their clients, right? Why can't I just go and do this myself in a platform, Hargreaves, Lansdowne or whatever? Why can't I go? Because we're the experts, and that's the same thing. So I think it's good to know that there's so much experience still in financial services in the likes of our businesses. Yours around the tech piece. It's priceless, right? So this is great to talk about all this stuff. So I suppose, you've been around a long time. I think pushing 30 years is a massive achievement, particularly in a turbulent sector like what we have here. Who's been your influences over that time? Like, is there anybody that's sort of, it could be personal, professional, that's come into your life and gone, that's really spurred you on, been your best advocate? Who's been your inspiration over that time?
Yeah, I think there's been quite a few, certainly professionally. I used to work for 3M a long time ago, and I think it's people who have faith in capability. And certainly when I went to work at first, both the founders had a huge impact in terms of belief in me and my capability that just really spurred me on.
Sorry, we lost you. We had a technical glitch. Let me ask the question. So I didn't get any of that on the recording.
Oh, didn't you? Okay, no worries.
Sorry. So go for the answer again. Go on.
No worries. So predominantly, in my professional life, I used to work for 3M a long time ago, and certainly the boss that I worked for there was really driven and just encouraged me to just explore actually my capability and what I could do. And then when I went into financial services and hit the technology space and worked for First, certainly the founders of First were so positive. And just, I used to describe it like being in a sweet shop where you could do a bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that, and that it's going to make a difference. And it was that encouragement and that faith in my capability that made me think, actually, maybe there's something more out there.
Amazing. It's like the belief they had in you to just be you. I did I think that should never ever be underestimated either. I think, I did a little piece for Faith Liversedge. She wrote an article for, I think it was for Illuminate, and it was like, what's the best bits of advice you can give to people reading this article, sort of thing. What have you learned in all your years? And I just said, be authentically you, and never be put off by what you think you can and can't do, what people say. So it's good, because I think there's a lot of people that will be very quick to put people down and say what you can't do. But so it's really great to listen to like stories of when, you know, people have been huge advocates of you. So 3M, and you're talking about the post-it note people, right?
Yes, that's right. Well, they had 77,000 products when I worked for them. Goodness knows how many they have now. But
Crazy, isn't
yeah,
it?
very, very diverse, and a great boss I worked for there.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Okay, fab. So tell me about, you know, what's next for Jigsaw Tree, because obviously, you know, we've got a very evolving sector within financial services. So what's next? And if we were having this conversation, you know, 3 years from today, you know, what does that 3 years look like? You know, what will you have achieved? What do you hope to have cracked? You know, tell me about the next 3 years.
So I think a lot of it is, you know, I enjoy working with consolidators. You know, I love the challenges that brings. And I think as a business, we will continue to grow and evolve. We clearly are getting involved with AI. We're, you know, conducting some AI forums and some research and stuff like that, just really because there is so much noise in our sector about
Yeah.
AI, and equally the changes that there's going to come about in terms of the advice businesses. And, you know, my view is it's not just looking at the tech, it's looking at how do you win the hearts and minds of the people who are going to have to think about their roles changing, the skill set that's required, you know, what's the cultural shift that's going to happen in those businesses. And, you know, really, how do we help them find the best technology that's going to really plug that heavy lifting for them?
Yeah.
And the reason why we did the AI Focus Forum is because often with technology firms, you know, they will have what I describe as a bit of a, you know, ta-da, this is what we've delivered.
Yeah.
And often the advice firms will look at it and go, well, wouldn't it be good if? And so I just said to them, look, let's flip it. Let's not have the wouldn't it be good if, and you tell us what you need this solution
To
to
do.
deliver,
Yeah.
and then we can bring it on. And I think that more listening to the advice firms about what they need from a technology perspective, and for the providers and technology suppliers to really sit up and take note, because we've got so many pieces of technology.
Yeah.
And I guess my ideal is, you know, we could get an end-to-end, no paper, no manual input, the data just flows. Whether or not we'll ever get there, who knows?
I think there's lots of things, Chris, that I say to the team quite a lot, and I'll say to clients, you know, most of our work and the things that we want will be seen not in our lifetime, when
I
we're
think
when
you're
we're
right.
long gone. I think the sector, you know, you think of what the sector, you know, we're talking just 3 years, right, in terms of what you will have achieved and what, you know, we will have achieved in that time. But you think what this sector is going to look like in 20 years. I mean,
Oh,
it's
massively
it's
different.
incredible, like the potential, and I think that's, you know, that's also what sort of bounces me out of bed in the morning, just to sort of see, you know, where could this go? Like, how far could the sector actually go? And you know, we talk a lot, you know, one of my next questions is around excellence, and you know, there's a huge drum around professionalism, and I think it's way more. We need way more than professionalism. Professionalism's like a given. You know, that's like Ruby
Agreed.
going to school with a school uniform on. You know, these are entry level basics, right? And if you strive for excellence, you know, we will surpass, you know, professional lawyers, accountants, because we'll be a zillion times, you know, better than them, you know, more effective than them, more impactful than them. So I think it's about where does that bar get set? So to bring us to that question, you know that, you know, I'm a massive one for, you know, even during my week away, you know, I'm often doing this soul searching as to, you know, why am I doing this? What am I doing? What's next? And you know, one of the things that I sat, you know, in the lodge while Ruby was out, you know, thinking about was, you know, what am I passionate about? And it's standards, not necessarily certification, and almost like a robotic way of working, but just standards. I have standards in my home, I have standards in my friendships, I have just if you're going to do something, do it properly. And you know, so my question to you is, you know, what does excellence mean to you? What does it mean to you as Chris, but also what does it mean to you as, you know, the owner of Jigsaw Tree?
Yeah, and I'm an interesting question. I mean, for me, I have 5 pillars, um, you know, that I focus on during the course of the year, that are spread across, you know, both personal and business. And you know, excellence as a business owner is, you know, we hold a number of accreditations, and we probably hold more than most. And that's just because we want to demonstrate, actually, we've gone through a process that evidences our level of excellence with a particular piece of tech. And again, you know, this year we're looking at B Corp, so we're just going through that journey, because what I want is, I want a certification to challenge me as a business owner and to challenge my business, to say, let's just really stretch it and see what we can do and what changes and differences you need to make as a business owner. And I think having one eye on what you need to do as a business, as well as the services you need to offer, I think is really important.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the thing that we share in terms of our, you know, the common ground for our businesses is that, you know, we've seen the sector change so much over that time, right? You know, we know, we talked about it before we hit record, you know, the focus so heavily on qualifications and academic achievements, and all those things are absolutely fundamental. But I think as the sector shifts, it's not going to be about those things anymore, because as they become the given, it's the what. And I know from, particularly from the period of COVID, for example, you know, there was a lot of almost tech explosion in terms of, and not in a good way, but they realized how, you know, both people, tech, their processes, their systems were just not fit for purpose, because you know what COVID did, you know, and we'll use the word crisis, not necessarily COVID, but crisis just demonstrates the weaknesses and the strengths in businesses. And we've never had a busier 2 years ever during COVID, because literally everyone could see. So I think, you know, excellence is absolutely, has been summed up by you, but just to add, I think it's, you know, having that one eye, as you mentioned, on constantly just doing something that's business focused, like you're doing, you know, not just about the clients, having, you know, being client centric and stuff, but actually, you know, being a business owner that's leading the business, which, you know, is fundamental. So, you know, I completely agree with that. And just to kind of close us off, I asked you at the beginning when we first picked the phone up, and I said to you, you know, if you could use one word to describe financial services, what did you say and why?
So I think I said that there is a lot of noise. And I think there is a huge amount of noise, particularly around things like Consumer Duty and AI. I think we're almost in a bit of a, some firms are in a steady state in terms of not necessarily knowing what to do next. I think there's a lot of preparation going on in the background. But yeah, I would, and maybe an air of being cautious.
I think that there's almost, I get the feeling of almost not quite rabbit in headlights, but it's almost like, do I do this? Do I spend my money on that? Do I spend my money on this? Do I recruit more people? It's almost overcomplicated to the point, like you were saying right at the beginning, that they're almost like I don't know what to do now. What do I do? Oh, I know what to do. I'll just see my clients, because, you know, I need to just keep the money coming in. So it's what, you know, it's almost this, they're stifled with it. You know, and I was saying to you, you know, we've got some amazing clients, but we've also got, you know, amazing proposals out that are just taking ages to come in, because, you know, there's like almost like this decision paralysis going on, and that's got to pass, because these businesses are just stopped. They're like, they are literally like in headlights. So I think you're right. I think it's complex. I think it's noisy, and I actually think the sector's exhausted. Like, if you think about it, you know, one thing we didn't say before we hit record was, you know, you think about the last year or so with their clients, advisors with their clients, you know, their income's dropped because of markets, yet their clients are more needy, more uncertain. You know, they're having to not work quite twice as hard, but they're having to, as advisors, trying to serve more, pacify, support, you know, console clients. You know, and I've got many advisors who have had to talk clients off the cliff edge. Like, literally, they're on suicide watch and all sorts, because, you know, and that's taking an emotional toll, I think, on the sector. So, look, I think, Chris, I mean, you and I are both there to support the sector. We have been for years. You know, it's been really great, and I love, you know, you've shared some of those, you know, those stories. But, you know, so what's next for Jigsaw Tree? What's around the corner? What's coming up? What can the market expect?
Well, I guess in terms of, you know, who we are as a business, we've always been a virtual business since we set the business up some 13 years ago. So we are looking forward to celebrating and I'm having a summer party in the garden for everyone, which will be just, you know, just lovely to all get together and just have some fun and celebrate, you know, what has been a, you know, a challenging time. And you know, for us next, definitely, you know, we're working with an AI provider. That's going to be really exciting.
Right.
And we've got some new services, some new accreditations. You know, I talked a bit about B Corp. So just things that enable us to be the best that we can be and deliver a really good service, solid foundations, and just continue to grow and develop.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And thank you once again for spending time doing this with me. I hope people get a bit more of an insight into who you are, which is the most important thing, right? And what makes you tick, and, you know, and drag Jigsaw Tree out of bed every morning, which, you know, I'm sure sometimes can be a bit challenging. So, you know, hugely appreciate your time, Chris. If anyone can, you know, wants to reach out, you know, we'll be sharing Chris's details in the links, and, you know, but you can definitely find her on LinkedIn, Jigsaw Tree website. Check them out.